Welcome to the August 11, 2017 edition of Colorado Inside Out Postgame, a special web-exclusive production here on Channel 12. Let's get a quick take on a ruling from a federal agency this week that stated that Cargill Meatpacking Plant in Colorado and the Teamsters Union both violated the civil rights of Muslim workers in a dispute over prayer space. The agency has formally invited Cargill and the union to participate in mediation of the dispute. Patty Calhoun from Westward. Now, this affects over 150, I guess maybe exactly 150 workers, but it's taken a long time to get here. Did the decision come in time to help out these workers?
These workers or subsequent workers, you know, it's amazing to think about people coming to this country, and these are the jobs they get in the meatpacking plants that most Americans don't want. And they weren't asking for a lot with this prayer, the space for the prayer and the time for the prayers, and they would have worked it out within the break time they were allowed on the job. So it was an outrage when they were fired, and this is a great decision, and let's hope it's not too late to bring them back, and that in the meantime they've managed to take care of their families and survive.
David Copel from the Independence Institute and DU Law School. I was surprised to see a decision from a government agency that not only impacted the company, but also the union, that they actually found fault with both. Is that common?
No, but it does happen. I mean, it's the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission, and you know, unions in this country have historically often been hostile to immigrants or people of color. I mean, I was just reading an article last night about how the Restaurant Employees Union, part of the American Federation of Labor, worked very hard in the late 19th and early 20th century to try to wipe out Chinese restaurants, which were competition to them. And of course wouldn't let Chinese restaurant workers join the AFL because they weren't white. The EEOC has a reputation of not being frivolous. You know, there's lots of people who have really stupid unemployment-related complaints, and you have to go to the EEOC usually before trying to file a suit in federal court, and a lot of those complaints get dismissed by the EEOC for lack of validity. So it does say something here, and the national precedent is large. This is not just going to be about Cargill. This is moving, I think, towards a requirement that all employers are going to have to give Muslim employees release time for prayer.
Tate, an attorney with Kutak Rock, also a longtime state lawmaker. Admittedly, when it comes down as a decision from a federal agency, I didn't know exactly what that meant for these workers, because it's not necessarily a lawsuit, but clearly it's a big deal. Break it down for our viewers of how big of a deal is this? What does it mean for the workers involved?
This is massive. This is the area where I used to practice before I transitioned my work to more transactional. Number one, to David's point, but to amplify it, you have to file an administrative charge with either the EEOC or the Colorado Civil Rights Commission before you can go into state or federal court and assert that your civil rights have been violated either under federal or state law. The EEOC was infamous, regardless of whether a Democrat or a Republican was in the White House. They were infamous for doing nothing. And so 99.9998% of the cases were always findings of no probable cause, or they would just tell you, look, we have a 180-day time limit to process it. Just tell us you want a letter to file a lawsuit. We're not even going to bother to look at it. And so the fact that they looked at this, invested significant resources, and found discrimination this is the extreme exception, not the rule. So that tells me that the situation with Cargill was pretty extreme. There's another important point, and you directed the question to David, and that's the complicity of the labor union. Number one, you have unions that are essentially dying on the vine because people aren't joining them, either whether it's in the Rust Belt or in other places. They've had this historic antipathy toward people of color anyway, and now you've got a finding that sort of reaffirms that historic problem labor unions have had. This decision will be helpful. I'm sure, to Patty's point, some folks are probably going to be reinstated to jobs. There's going to be massive back pay awards and awards for other things. And fundamentally, when you break it down, you think about what the workers, the Muslim workers a lot, and remember, 130 of these workers weren't Muslim workers talking about these conditions. They were talking about the hostile work environment in general. The Muslim workers just wanted time and a place to pray. Employers give people time for cigarette breaks. So if you give someone time for a cigarette break, why can't you give a small number of employees time to pray for 15 minutes? It seems very odd, and I applaud the EEOC for finally sort of living up to their mandate that dates back to the 1960s, and they're actually doing something to benefit workers with regard to employers and labor unions to whom they pay dues.
Public affairs consultant Ben Gelt rounds out the panel. When you see a big decision like this and all different points that everyone's made so far, do you think this is going to be a wake-up call to other corporations and other unions out there?
I would suspect so. Cargill is one of the largest ag companies in the world, a major global employer, a major employer in this country, all over the country. Discriminating in that way against any religion or ethnicity is supposedly not acceptable in our free and democratic society. And I would hope that this does send a very strong signal to employers that they can't discriminate based on religion, they can't discriminate based on race or anything else, and that you have to provide a fair and reasonable venue for people to practice their beliefs. You know, what's so striking about this too to me is that these workers were they were so well coordinated. They were taking their breaks in tandem and doing things to keep the line working and be able to do their prayer. And for Cargill to be so punitive and to take that away from them when clearly the workers were willing to compromise and make things work, I hope it does send a very strong signal that we won't accept that in our society.
That is all the time we have for Colorado Inside Out postgame this week. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think. For everyone here at CPT12.org, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for watching.